Good morning, friends on YouTube. We'll start the devotion in just a few seconds. We'll start the devotion in just a few seconds. Good morning, fellow pilgrims. Welcome to our daily devotion from Pilgrim Congregational Church. I'm Patrick Horn, and very glad to have you join us this morning. And any morning that you're able to, or that you're able to watch the recordings of these devotions. They are, as you know, available on YouTube and Facebook, and I hope that they are of some use to you. We are studying the book of Genesis, and this week we are in Genesis chapter 28, which is the story of Jacob and a dream about a ladder or stairway reaching to heaven. So this morning I would like for us to focus on the promises that God makes to Jacob in this dream. And those promises are in verses 13, 14, and 15. So I'm going to read those three verses of Genesis chapter 28, offer a few reflections, and close with a word of prayer. Genesis 28, verses 13 through 15. And the Lord stood beside him and said, I am the Lord, the God of Abraham your father, and the God of Isaac. The land on which you lie, I will give to you and to your offspring. And your offspring shall be like the dust of the earth, and you shall spread abroad to the west, and to the east, and to the north, and to the south. And all the families of the earth shall be blessed in you and in your offspring. Know that I am with you and will keep you wherever you go, and will bring you back to this land, for I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you. Well, Jacob has this remarkable dream. We noted in our Bible study last night that Jacob did not seem to be a particularly religious person before this point. This seems to be an eye-opening experience for him. But what I want to focus on is the fact that the promises that God makes to Jacob are both temporal and spiritual. That is, these are things that God promises that happen in time and space and in history of human beings. And they're also spiritual, that is, timeless and eternal. And the symbolism in the story involves both heaven and earth. So it's very important that you have in the background this ladder going from earth to heaven and from heaven to earth, this connection between these two. And I want to emphasize that this is the nature of our relationship with God. God is not temporal, God is spiritual, and we are temporal. That is, we live in a certain place, in a certain time, and God speaks to us in this place and time. God comes to us in our situation of temporality. Some theologians have described it as human beings having something like a hole in their hearts that can only be filled by God, can only be filled by something that is eternal, that is something that lies outside of human beings. So God comes to us, God relates to us. The primary ways, of course, that God has related to us, first of all, through creation, by creating us and the world. And then the other way, of course, is through Jesus Christ, who came as a man and also as God. So God relates to us where we are. God is not distant, way off somewhere. God is spirit, but relates to us now. And as Jesus said, the kingdom of God is within our hearts. And so God has placed a a longing in us to want to to want something else, a perfect goodness, a perfect love. We long for something that we know we don't have in us, and God places this within us, and but we also have the freedom to choose to pursue that perfect love, that perfect goodness. And God gives us this opportunity to do so, even though it's not within us. God gives us the power to pursue it. What is within us is the potential building of the kingdom of God within us. And in this story, what is so powerful, I think, is that in Jacob, there is the bringing together of this deeply spiritual experience in a dream where God speaks to him and God gives him promises. And Jacob saying, marking the place, this is the place of Bethel where the transcendent God is present with us. And I think it's such an important part of our relationship with God that we understand that God comes to us, that is where we are, and that we don't have to try to fly to heaven or try to get some other place. We just need to be right here where we are, and God comes to us and speaks to us in and through our hearts, which were made to seek God. Um, let's close with a word of prayer. Almighty Father, whose presence fills all things, we thank thee that thou can by no means be excluded from the work of thy hands. We thank thee that thou hast made us to realize thyself and that thy purposes are beyond defeat. We have shut ourselves in, girded the mind with strong argument, repeated our unbelief like a creed, but we've never escaped thee. We have striven to walk alone in pride, sufficiency, and ostentation, and then some thought of thee has shattered all our willfulness, and we have gone softly ever afterwards and prayed, God be merciful to me, a sinner. We have plunged into sin. We have turned from the bright ideals which plagued us. We have stabbed at our own complaining souls, drugged our conscience, poisoned our minds, set up idols, made our hearts like hell, and lo, thou art there. We yield to thee, O God, for thou art stronger than we. We cannot escape thee without forsaking our reason, our hope, and our joy. We cannot do without thee unless we surrender all that comforts and all that inspires. Forgive us our folly, pardon our wandering, make room for us within thy gracious love. Amen. Thank you for joining us this morning from Pilgrim Congregational Church. I'm Patrick Horn. I hope you have a great day. Goodbye.